When what exists is realized as it is, the world appearance ceases. It's not quite true to say the world appearance ceases. There's certainly an appearance, but it's perhaps more accurate to call it the stream of experiencing, or the field of experiencing. There's no identification with notions. There's no identification with notions of an ego here and a world out there. Remain firmly established like a rock in the realization of this truth, while functioning as an intelligent being here. In other words, you don't withdraw into yourself. We're not talking about some kind of solipsistic denial, because there's an inherent acceptance and openness to everything. We're just not getting caught up in distorted and limited thinking about it. So it says, remain firmly established like a rock in this realization. Well, a rock's not a very inspiring metaphor. Well, maybe it is one way of looking at it, being like a rock. But also I think being like an emperor, being like a lord, because you've got it all. You've got it all right here, right now. There's nothing out there that you need. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. You don't need to prove yourself to anybody. Because the consciousness, which is at the heart of your own being, which is you, is the infinite, indivisible, soul, cosmic power. You don't need to take my word for it. It's all here in the Yoga Vasishta. Worship the Self, which is the Supreme Lord, with all your natural actions and experiences, including your wisdom. So we worship the Self not by setting it up as something separate. We worship by realizing. We worship it by coming back to it as often as possible, because it's easy to forget about it. It's easy to forget about this supreme cosmic power at the center of our being. We'd much rather get caught up in our limited ideas and have a limited perspective on things. So worship really is overcoming this desire, this fear even, of opening up to our true nature. So we worship the Self with all our natural actions and experiences, including your wisdom. And the natural actions are the actions that you need to get on with, whether it's washing the dishes, tidying up, engaging affectionately with your loved ones. These are the articles of worship. Worship with these articles. The Self instantly bestows upon you the boon of spiritual unfoldment. In comparison, the worship of gods like Rudra and Vishnu is worthless. The Self, which is the Lord, immediately confers moksha or final liberation when worshipped with inquiry into the nature of the Self, with self-control and satsang, company of the wise. Satsang is company of the wise. If you get a chance to spend some time with individuals who are also enlightenment practitioners, then that's great. But there's quite a few caveats which I've mentioned before. So it cuts right through the traditional religious, and in this case Hindu religious context, which involves the worship of gods. There might be other benefits from worshipping God or worshipping the gods, but if you're an enlightenment practitioner, then the worship of gods like Rudra and Vishnu is worthless. Perception of the reality is the best form of worship. When the Lord exists as the Self, only a fool worships others. God or the gods cannot be anything other than notional. The very fact that you've got an idea in your head about God or the gods shows this idea has arisen in your head. Where else has it arisen from? It's a notion. The notion might have been put in your head, but it's still something which is in your head. You're relating to something in your head. And you might want to say, well, no, this is the truth. This is my experience of the truth of God, of Krishna, of Jesus, or whatever. But how can it be anything other than an idea in your head? Everything is an idea in your head. Everything is notional. Reality is notional. And when you inquire into it, this is what you find.